Here to see Bill Belichick walking on the sidelines at North Carolina. You know, we're having it on right here in the studio, but nevertheless, it still's weird. It's why college football is the best sport, at least to me. The best sport in all of sports is college football. We get to talk about it tonight as LSU does take down Clemson 17-10. We'll recap that game tonight. But I'm sitting here right before we come on the show as the TV is playing, and I got the North Carolina game on, and Bill Belichick's walking out of a tunnel, and I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. You know, before the game, he's sitting there with Holly Rowe giving one-word answers to questions. I mean, it's the same old Bill, but my goodness, man, just doesn't feel right. You know what does feel right? The way that LSU performed defensively against Clemson. Again, as I mentioned, we'll talk about that recap. We'll go through 7 topics of things in recapping this game in long extended forms. We'll point out some players that I thought going back and rewatching the game really stood out to me. A lot of them defensively, and maybe some of those points that aren't big talking points coming out of it that I really stood up and stood out to me. Some of them, like Mansour Delane, Harold Perkins, for sure that you know. Garrett Nussmeier, you know. Caden Durham, you know. But there's some other players that we got to recognize and say, hey, man, if they're going to play like that, this team could potentially get to the college football playoff. What to build on, some things that we need to correct. This week, LSU has Louisiana Tech. We will talk about that. We'll bring some guys on this week to talk about Louisiana Tech and who they are so that we can get a better understanding. But things that LSU must build on, things that they're going to correct, we're going to get to that too. But it is not missed upon me upon this Labor Day of some of the things nationally that are being said. We're going to talk about some of them, about how things and what some things happened in week 1, not only around the SEC, but college football. But I will tell you, boy, it feels good to be on the other side of that narrative, doesn't it? It feels really good to not be in the situation where, well, because you're going to walk back into working tomorrow, some of you, and you're going to be able to have the conversations with some of your friends and colleagues and talking about, man, that LSU defense was absolutely outstanding. But I got to be real with you. I heard some things today. The dynasty's dead for Alabama being one. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But I saw this from a national level. Maybe it is. You dictate one game off of a dynasty being dead. Clemson can't win the big game. Well, that's basically what they've said about Brian Kelly the last 2 seasons. He just can't find a way to win the big game. Clemson being 0-4 against the SEC in the last 4 times that they played the SEC. Is it true? Is LSU just a really good freaking football team? You know, what's interesting is there's only one team that beat Clemson last year that didn't make the playoff from the SEC, and quite frankly, they should have. They should have. They're not necessarily giving you the credit that maybe that you deserve. Is Ohio State just, well, are they the new dynasty as they continue to rebuild and reload? I don't even know if they're rebuilding. So we'll talk about that from week 1. But a difference a year makes, man. You know, this time last year we were sitting here on Labor Day weekend and you would fall to USC. And this week 1 problem that you constantly have now that it's over, now people are pointing the finger at Clemson. Oh, just because you have a lot of production returning means that, well, might not mean that you're a good football team. Well, welcome to AYS. Because here, that's what we talk about. I mean, Penn State's different, in my opinion, because they go out there and they add to those pieces in a massive way. Dabo doesn't go in the portal like that. I think it's funny that the only player that had a sack on that great defensive line for Dabo came from the portal. But I look at all of this and feel to myself, man, it's great to have that 1,000-pound gorilla get off of your back if you're LSU and not being able to week 1 games. I don't really hear anybody say that Brian Kelly can't win big games anymore. It's kind of ironic how that happens. No one's saying that Brian Kelly can't win a big game. A lot of people nationally had LSU or had Clemson in their playoff. They had Clemson still winning the ACC. Hell, if you look at FanDuel and our good friends over at FanDuel, they still have Clemson to win the ACC. Maybe they do. But what is very interesting is the narrative feels like when you lose, everything gets taken more seriously. But man, I thought that today, from a national perspective, people would be giving you more flowers. Now, they were wrong on you in the beginning. Well, I guess everybody besides Lee Corso, who predicted that you're going to win a national title, and maybe the coach is just smarter than every one of us. If Lee Corso predicts this to be right, this is going to be insane. By the way, y'all know that. As he went 5-0 in his picks this week, he picked LSU to win a national title. Maybe he is correct there. You have a really good defense, and what I think people are not giving you credit for is that they are really good. But there are some things that we're going to talk about tonight. How do you build off that momentum? We saw what happens when you don't have success. How do you build off the success of winning is the question. And by the way, you got a really good team in a couple of weeks against Florida. JTR says UNC up early, driving right down and scoring early, up 7-0 on TCU. Yeah, we have it right here. Obviously, I just can't watch it like you guys while you're watching AYS, I might add. Brandon Reese says watching Notre Dame lose last night was the icing on the cake for me. Yeah, couldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be funny if we were able to play them in a playoff? If they don't beat A&M, I don't think that they're going to have a good enough game on their record, on their resume. Tyler says, after we run through Louisiana Tech, I'm ready to watch them Florida Gators, who Florida's got South Florida this weekend, who absolutely beat the dog crap out of Boise State. Now, if you watch Ruffino and Joe show, you were warned that Boise State might be bad this year. Let's see what they do against South Florida. I have kept my eyes on Florida. I watched their game today. We're sitting at the in-laws' house. I watched the clip of them today. I didn't watch their full game. But they can run the football, man. They can experience offensive line. They don't have a real test until they play you. They just don't. Cajun on Twitter says Garrett was the SEC Player of the Week, but what about the Perkins game not knocking our quarterback? I mean, he was the offensive SEC Player of the Week, right? Or was the outright? I didn't really see. I thought Harold Perkins should have been the SEC Player of the Week, if you're going to ask me. Harold had a much better game overall, in my opinion. Okay, a couple of super chats here. Alexander Taylor with a $5 super chat says, will we see more Chris Hilton more as the season goes on and O-line gets better? I'm not out on him. I don't think that you should be out of him. I don't think that you should be out on him. What I think is that you asked him to do something that he's not good at. That being, you're asking him to go sideline to sideline. That's not what he does. We'll talk about Chris Hilton a little bit, Alexander, tonight. Some things you need to correct. You got to get more vertical. But if teams are going to play that off of you the way that they were, you got to be able to run the football more effectively, right? You got to if teams are going to play that far back on you. I thought that Sloan's game plan, while very conservative, and we'll talk about this in just a moment, was to some extent the right thing to do in some ways. If you're going to play that far back, keep throwing screens, keep throwing quick routes. Let them come up, and so you can get vertical. Hey, the one time they came up and something significant, they pushed the ball down the field to Barry Brown and should have been a touchdown. And by the way, I see a lot of people playing this what-if game on Twitter. The what-if game, well, LSU didn't get the 3 points. Or, man, if Clemson doesn't miss that field goal, guys, if Barry Brown's touchdown is not reversed, like if you want to play the woulda, coulda, shoulda, let's play the woulda, coulda, shoulda in both avenues. So, yeah. Penn Jones with a $50 super chat. Thank you, Penn. Greatly appreciate that. Says towards better internet service, go Tigers. Yeah, I'm really nervous about the post games moving forward. If it happens again, then we have a plan in place, and we're trying to get some things lined up to get some backups here. We're we've looked into that. So we're gonna be okay. I mean, it was the biggest day of AYS. I told you people would come in here more after a win. By the way, just so everybody knows, we've never pushed over the threshold of 10,000 people in the show live. We catastrophically broke that record. We had like 11,000 people in the chat live when we were doing the first show, and shit just went haywire. Shit just went absolutely haywire. So I do apologize. Thank you for the $50 super chat. We've got some things figured out. We might have to go to another studio for big important games and stuff like that to make sure that we're good to go. But I think we'll be good to go. We'll give it a test here. But thank you so much for the super chat. Where is everybody watching from tonight, by the way? Where are you watching from tonight? I want to get some of those too. Otis on Twitter with YouTube with a $10 super chat says, so many people picked us to lose, and all of them didn't want to admit that they were dead wrong, and the glazing of certain teams and players was ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, Otis, to your point, I think what people needed to see is what you exactly did, right? What I think the national media was saying, myself included, I needed to see you go out there and do what you did. Now, the conversations that we had was, man, this defense, either one or two things are true. Either you are average defensively and, your offense is just that bad, or this defense is really good, and that's why they couldn't run the football consistently during fall camp. The latter happened. And look, we're going to talk about this, Otis and Alexander. Thank y'all so much for the super chats. Brian Kelly's game plan showed that he 1,000% knew, didn't think that he knew that he had a dominant defense. He knew it. He knew what this defense was about to do to Cade Klubnik. He knew it. And we're going to get to that in just a moment. But he knew that they were about to dominate. That's for damn sure. Just by the way that he called the game and managed the game. The 870 says Richard Reeves, Magnolia, Arkansas is in the building. Bryce Jackson. No, we're doing some of these. Vic Nettles says the 850 Pensacola, Florida is in the building. Thank you so much. Lockport says Brad. Gotta love it. Columbia, Louisiana is in the building. Got a lot of 337 and 318s in the building. 318, Monroe, Prairieville, the 225, and the 601 says Eric Newman. Hattiesburg, Mississippi, stand up and stand proud. Thank you all for the super chats. I greatly Penn Jones, Alexander, and Otis. Thank y'all so much. Great to see where everybody's listening from. Yes, tell us where you're listening to from tonight. All right, we got lots to get to. Let's recap this LSU Clemson game. We do that next. Let me get to a quick break. When we return, we'll get to that. We'll do some things. We'll do a segment on things that we need to build on, things that we need to correct, and we'll go from there. Every show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Guys, go over to FanDuel.com and sign up today. Maybe the next month or two, maybe 60 days. We're going to get some bonus cash for you in the future. Go over to FanDuel.com, sign up today. Got some discretionary income you think LSU is going to cover this weekend. Garrett Nussmeier, by the way, up as number 1 in the Heisman odds. LSU moving up to 4th in the national championship odds. Go with our friends over at FanDuel and bet those things responsibly. If you have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or go over to FanDuel.com/RG. That's FanDuel.com/RG. Let's get to a quick break. When we come back, we're breaking down this Clemson LSU game next. Stay with us.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about our good friends over at RedStick Financial. They're your local residential mortgage broker located right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At RedStick Financial, they find the bank that works for your particular set of needs to purchase the home of your dreams or refinance the current one. They truly are your partners in this process, and they pride themselves in helping individuals and families with one simple goal in mind, and that is to make home financing approachable, attainable, and stress-free. They are licensed in all Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. So from Amarillo to Meridian and everything in between, they have you covered. RedStick Financial brings you creative, customized solutions, and they don't believe in the one-size-fits-all when it comes to loans. They even have special options for mobile and manufactured homes located in a flood zone and stated income financing for those of us who are self-employed borrowers. If you or someone you know is looking to buy a home, refinance an existing mortgage, or simply want to know what options are out there for your future, give RedStick Financial a call today at 225-407-9250. That's 225-407-9250. Or check them out online at redstickfinancial.com. That's redstickfinancial.com. Before you purchase the home of your dreams or you go and do that refinance, you need to go local. Go. Guys, let me tell you about our good friends over at Grand Slam Heating and Air, where your comfort is their top priority. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they promise to provide customers with high-quality HVAC service at an affordable price while ensuring the homeowner peace of mind. From their office to your home, they guarantee the best hassle-free experience around. Efficiency and comfort is their game. Let them make your home Grand Slam today. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they're offering their annual maintenance plan starting off at $18.75 a month and also doing those $99 tune-up promotion. They provide free estimates for system and ductwork replacement, as well as offering financing to get the job done with no money up front. From Baton Rouge to Hammond to Covington, they're all around. So what you need to do today, give them a call at 225-380-9065. That's 225-380-9065. Or go over to their website, getgrandslamair.com. That's getgrandslamair.com, where your comfort is their top priority. We're back. All right, let's get moving here. No time to waste. So much to break down. By the way, sidebar. The video of Barian Brown standing in the end zone in the first overall kickoff, when he's walking up and down, pacing, shaking his head, that gives me chill bumps every time I see it. Joe Sloan's got to get the ball more to number 6. I know we talked about him a lot this offseason. Number 6 has got to get the football more without a shadow of a doubt. He can be very electric. All right, let's get into it. So it is Monday. You know what that means. We are recapping the game of LSU versus Clemson. As we mentioned earlier, I know everyone's very excited. I'm very excited that we were able to pull off this game and get that monkey off of our back. The 1,000-pound gorilla is off of our back, that we can win a week 1 game, that you can go into a hostile environment and win a big week 1 matchup. You know, I don't find things coincidence, by the way. I don't find things to be ironic. The last season that you won an opening week game was when you would end your season playing Clemson. I find things a little bit of a coincidence. The last season you did it, well, the last team that team played was Clemson. Guys, let's start off with here in this recap. I think it's going to be missed from, and I haven't really felt this from a national perspective, but I want to touch on this a little bit here. I don't think people understand truly what LSU did in going in there and beating Clemson. Guys, as someone who's on this beat every day, who's someone who covers everything around here, I felt going into this game that the pressure that LSU had, some that they generated on their own, as Brian Kelly even mentioned in the postgame, there were some things that we did and the pressure that we put on ourselves and some of the things that we said, that going into Clemson and coming away with the win, everyone feels like that there's a sigh of relief. Now, you got a lot more games that you need to play. You got 11 more of these for sure that you got to just continue to go take it to people. But the amount of pressure that you overcame, guys, cannot be missed. The level of maturity that you saw from this team is not missed upon me. How I felt like at every single level that there were moments and times that I could say and look on film and say, man, that's just a really, really good play. That's what national championship level teams. And yes, I said that. Dude, some of the pass protections that you got from Josh Thompson coming off of a block, going over and making a big pickup where Garrett can step up in the pocket and hit a deep in route to Aaron Anderson for a first down that, guys, ultimately would lead you to points. Not a lot of times you had that a season ago that was effective enough. The overall pressure and maturity level that your team showed, and feeling like during the entire game that they never were really overwhelmed, right? Like I never really felt like, now there was panic from us as fans, like, hey man, you don't go score here. I never really felt like that they ever panicked. They had a game plan. They went in there with a game plan to execute that game plan because they knew that they would win if they executed it from start to finish. There was a game plan that LSU utilized, and getting into recapping the game, that is completely evident to me. Because you got the ball first. Kickoff happens, you get a touchback, you run the ball, you get a 25-yard run by Caden Durham, then you can't really get anything going after that. Because you ran the ball at midfield on 3rd and 11, when last year you're just trying to throw the ball all over the place because you know that you need to get points quickly. Instead, in the first overall possession, you wind up running the ball on 3rd and 11 and punting it away. It is very evident to me, that LSU went into this game and said to themselves, we have a really good defense, and with that really good defense, we're going to dominate from start to finish. There was never a feeling in time or place or situation where I felt like when you watch that team that they ever felt overwhelmed. And Brian Kelly has got to get a lot of credit. Guys, the last 2 years when you have been in situations like you were in week 1, you try to overcompensate and overdo things. We haven't seen Brian Kelly since 2022 just say, you know what, man? All right, we're going to run it on 3rd down. We're going to punt the football because we know that we got some guys on defense that can execute and that we're going to win this game on defense. The game plan to me, from an offensive standpoint and defensive standpoint, even if you agree, disagree, don't like it, love it, wherever you stand on it, the bottom line is that Brian Kelly knew that he had a really good team defensively. Because how many times did you get conservative on 3rd downs and punt the ball away and say, listen, man, sounds good. We're going to play some field position because we know our defense is really stinking good. Guys, they did that. It felt like one of your old school games under Les, to be honest with you. We are really good. We have a lot of athletes on defense. We're not going to give you the opportunity to seize momentum and seize this game. And what's crazy is you were down for a lot of it in the beginning. You had to come back from behind, and you never felt overwhelmed. Guys, that's the same thing that happened to you in 2022 in a lot of extents. You were down early to Ole Miss. You were down early to Auburn. You were in a dogfight versus Alabama, and you led throughout that game, but they ultimately wind up coming back and getting to overtime. Never felt overwhelmed. Brian Kelly was in his element. He was in his bag. I know we're going to win it because I got a defense that can make stops. And guys, when you can have that level of play defensively and you can game plan like that, it's a very good thing to have. I still think that you're going to see some really good teams. You have 6 other teams that can really do some special things against you. And you got to be able to answer that bell. You got Florida in a couple weeks. Lenore Sellers doesn't look like he digressed a lot. There are a lot of really good teams that you will face down the stretch. And listen, I know a lot of us want to clown Alabama. What will they do? And what will they be when you face off against them is the real question. But the real truth of it all is you went into Clemson and you knew that you were going to be really good on defense. It's interesting because 3 days into camp, I posted this video on our show, and I asked Brian Kelly one question. Hey, man, are you seeing the same thing I am because y'all ain't been this competitive and y'all haven't been this intense, especially on defense. Guys, we did a 45-minute segment on it early in August because there was a difference in the air, a big difference. This defense came and brought that lunch pail every single day. You just weren't going to do anything good against them. Brian Kelly knew that. He knew that he had a really good team defensively. He game planned around it, and that's what you saw. Your game plan was one that you knew that you were going to dominate defensively, and you just continued to go off that game plan because you knew eventually they would break if you put the pressure on them, and they did. There are a couple of things defensively, since we're speaking of that defense, that we need to get to. Guys, the additions of guys like Jack Pyburn and Mansour Delane cannot be understated. Having Harold Perkins back, having a 5-star defensive tackle in the interior like Don McKinley, some of the play that you got from a true freshman and DJ Pickett, some of the things that we saw from PJ Woodland, even on the first drive of the game. Guys, you just had a lot of players making plays. I thought Mansour, I thought the Weeks brothers, I thought Harold stood out the most to me, along with Don McKinley. And all of those players did a really, really good job. But they executed their defensive game plan very good too. They were flying around the ball. They were flying everywhere. When you go back and watch the game, we see that you are forcing Klubnik, for the most part, to stay in the pocket. There were a couple of times that he got outside the pocket and made some plays. But you relentlessly put pressure on him and said, listen, we're going to man up and we're going to play 1-2 high, and you're going to have to beat us. We're going to send 6. We're going to send 7 in some instances, and you're going to have to prove to us that you can make the elite throws versus our quarterback or versus our DBs as a quarterback. There were some ones that he made. You know, I thought PJ Woodland even still had really good coverage on Bryant Wesco on the play where he caught it and his knee was already down. Like, his hand is stuck in the chest of Bryant Wesco. Got to get his head turned down around a little bit quicker. Got to be a little bit more reactionary. Guys, he's stuck on him like glue. He's stuck on him like a buck in rut. I mean, he can't get off of him. But the biggest thing that you did is the number one thing Brian Kelly said that you needed to do and that you were going to do going into the game. We're going to keep Klubnik in the pocket, and we're going to force him to make big plays. I think of the Patrick Payton big hit on Klubnik that forced the errant throw on from Klubnik that Mansour Delane picked off. But, guys, your front seven and your edge and your pass rush is something that we talked about from spring until now. And I am so glad that you guys were able to see what I saw in spring and I saw in fall. There was a thought that this edge room and pass rush could be elite. If there's one thing that I think that you can hang your hat on is just how aggressive you're going to be under Blake Baker, and that you have a lot of speed that's going to get after a lot of quarterbacks. I thought you tackled very well, and you showed it from your front seven. Guys, there wasn't a lot of times, hardly ever, that they did anything when you got around them. Sure, Tamarcus had a missed tackle. AJ kind of tripped up on one. Okay, sounds fine, but you still made the plays. What ultimately that did was force Klubnik into some massive third and long situations. Last year, you were around 78th in the country in third down defense. Guys, you forced Clemson to be 3 of 13 defensively on third down, or offensively on third down. They could do nothing because it all revolved around one thing. You can't get Cade Klubnik in the pocket in big passing situations. You can't bring the pressure that you want to bring without there being revolved around one thing. You only gave up 31 yards rushing. You physically dominated their offensive line up front in the run game. You did. Guys, what happened to you a season ago? Like, I think of the A&M game from a season ago where you had 26 yards rushing And Garrett had to put the entire team on his shoulders to make anything happen offensively. Same thing happened to Clemson last night, or 2 nights ago, excuse me. Feel like that we're kind of on a Sunday, Monday routine here. But they could not run the ball. I think Jack Pyburn, there was a clip on Twitter that we posted. I think Don McKinley. I think Bernard Gooden, although who didn't make plays necessarily, go look at the havoc that 88 caused in the backfield. That defensive line in front seven made Clemson's life in the run game a living hell. What is crazy is the biggest question mark coming into the game of all of it, whether it is against LSU, for LSU, against Clemson, for Clemson. The biggest question going into this game was a simple one. Can LSU's offensive line hold up? Well, the real thing and the real truth that came in all of this was, can Clemson's? Because, guys, they couldn't generate holes. I thought Don McKinley dominated the interior of that offensive line. I thought Bernard Gooden made a lot of havoc. I thought your front seven just did a very not good. Guys, I thought that they did an elite job at physically taking it to that Clemson interior offensive line. That happened to you a season ago. It happened to you. You could not get anything going in the interior of your run game. And you just turned around with a five-star guy in the middle and 3 transfers to some extent, and Jack Pyburn, Patrick Payton, and Bernard Gooden, and you rotated a lot of guys in there. You had so much depth that even when you ran a second-team defensive line out there that had Ahmad Bro, that had Jacobian Guillory, that had Gabe Relaford, and had Jamari Butler, they still couldn't generate runs. And you're giving your starting defensive line a rest. And the numbers bear that out. So when you recap this game and you look at it, let's talk about the big things here. Well, the biggest thing that you did was you dominated them up front. Allowing them to only 31 rushing yards on 19 carries is insane. Is insane. They just couldn't get anything going. And it's not like that they weren't diverse, meaning it's not like they kept ramming their head up against the wall, a lot like what you did a couple of seasons ago. Guys, they ran 4 or 5 draws, or 3 for sure, in the second half, but they ran 4 or 5 draw plays with Klubnik, and Weston Weeks just said, you're not going anywhere. Not so fast, my friend. So they tried to do a lot of things. They got their wide receivers involved in the run game and still couldn't get anything going. The one time that they got a receiver involved, they did a jet sweep handoff, and Harold Perkins ran down one of their fastest receivers that everybody said that was really good. They can't be bad now because they're not bad now. But that's it. That's a safety / linebacker running down a receiver in the run game. It forced you to get after Klubnik. It forced to make him make big throws in big crunch time situations. Jack Pyburn's physicality and Gabe Relaford's physicality and Patrick Payton and this interior defensive line that created a lot of havoc. If you can replicate, and you're not going to hold teams to 31 rushing yards every week. Let's just be real. It's a long season and guys get beat up. But it's a long season. If you can continue to replicate some of the things that you showed and that you did, guys, that if you can lean on that, you're going to win a lot of football games. We talk about this so much. Teams that can run the football effectively and teams that can stop the run very effectively. They always are they're finding ways to play in January. One statistic that's not, and all the things that change, one thing that doesn't not show up, Georgia couldn't run the football last year. It was the worst season that they had. Technically the worst season that they had in stopping the run, and they still still couldn't get to where they ultimately wanted to go. You physically dominated an offensive line that had 5 starters returning. That last season, guys, did not have this bad of a performance against a defensive line in Texas that, quite frankly, a lot of people still believe, even right now, is the best team, is the best front seven in college football. You start asking yourself the question, man, if LSU starts and continues to replicate some of this stuff, do we need to start talking about them as being that dominant? That will be the ultimate question. But defensively, man, you dominated the run game. I thought you were really freaking good in coverage. There's just not an area defensively that I thought that you were even remotely average in. I thought good to very good to even great to some extent was what you played. You played at let's call it what it is. You played an A-plus game defensively. Brian Kelly's game plan dictated off of, listen, man, we're just going to dominate. There were some plays in there, by the way, that Patrick Payton knew what was coming and was calling it out, and it benefited you. Can you replicate that versus Florida in a couple weeks? Will be something that will be very interesting because that team has a very experienced offensive line as well. Very experienced. They've played together for a long time. You just played against an offensive line that had a combined 270 starts between all of them. 270 combined starts, and you pushed them around like you have a kid in a walker or whatever the chair, the scooter, whatever you call that thing. You just kept pushing around Miss Daisy. You for the first time in 4 years, even longer than that, for the first time in a couple of years, you were the team defensively that dominated somebody. It is refreshing to see. It also answers the question to some extent, if this continues, hey, man, this offense wasn't bad in fall camp. That defense we got is pretty special, or at least could be really special. So a lot of players stood up. I thought Harold Perkins, Mansour Delane, Jack Pyburn, the Weeks brothers. I thought P.J. Woodland. Guys, I think everybody played really well. Like everybody played really well. It's gonna be interesting to see how teams in the next couple of weeks try to attack you. It really is. But man, the speed level that you have is pretty insane. Last but not least, when we're recapping this game defensively, I thought your safety play was absolutely outstanding. You know, Jordan Gilbert, the Baton Rouge native, has taken a lot of heat. And in taking a lot of that heat, guys, when A.J. Halsey went out and couldn't play in the first half, I thought Jordan Gilbert made some really freaking good plays. You know, I think about the play in the first half when it's 3rd and 11 and Klubnik scrambles. And I literally, when he started to run the football, I was thinking to myself, oh, no, here we go again. And Jordan Gilbert was the last line of defense before the first down. Harold Perkins couldn't get there quick enough because he's coming from the other side of the field. And Jordan Gilbert's in pursuit and makes the play and makes the tackle. I thought Jordan Gilbert had a really good half. If there weren't 2 really bad throws by Cade Klubnik in the first half, there's a really strong chance that Jordan Gilbert's picking a ball off. You remember the one where he jumped and was just over his fingertips, and then one of the out routes that he broke out on, that if he doesn't throw it 5 yards in, does Klubnik, I'm not going to say it's a pick six. It could easily have been an interception for Jordan Gilbert. He played very well. Gus, we haven't mentioned him yet. Deshaun Spears played really well. Tamarcus Cooley played really well in coverage. Guys, Tamarcus Cooley is the name, and I've been waiting to talk about this all day. Tamarcus Cooley had one of the biggest games that nobody is talking about right now. Let me explain. Were there some catches that he gave up? Yep. He had a tackle that was missed, but you were able to clean it up. Because the only reason that you're able to do what you do, ask anybody that's been a coach, ask anybody that's a film junkie. The only reason you were able to do what you were able to do to Cade Klubnik and this team in Clemson and send the amount of pressure that you did was basically you have Tamarcus Cooley as a free safety, but he's going man up on some of these receivers, and you were okay with it. You're able to utilize Harold Perkins in such a unique way because you have a safety that is known for playing the slot. You can have 3 safeties on the field and send number 7 in some exotic ways and put him in coverage in some exotic ways, like Perkins was the one that made the stop on the massive 3rd and 15. But Tamarcus Cooley had a really good game. When you can go man-to-man, or you can do some quarters or do some of the things that they were doing, and basically him being man up and being able to cover as well as he did, vastly gives you the opportunity to put the level of pressure that you're putting on these teams and can't put on teams. I wonder if teams start attacking him in the near future. Clemson tried and failed to some extent, but they kept going after Mansour Delane, and that I just don't understand. DJ Pickett was on the field a lot, and they did not throw in his general direction. They didn't. There's going to be a team there. Listen, guys, after what happened this week, after what happened with Mansour Delane and him playing as great as he did, got the game ball, deserved it, teams are not going to throw the football at him anymore. They're not going to do it. It really feels like, to an extent, it feels like the Christian Fulton situation all over again with Sting. I don't know if I'm not calling DJ Pickett Derek Stingley. What I'm saying is remember early in the season in 19 where teams kept going at Christian Fulton and it wasn't working for them, so they started throwing the ball in the true freshman and Derek Stingley. That's going to start happening to DJ Pickett because that secondary, revamped secondary, played really good against a really good wide receiver core. And I don't know why people are walking back that Clemson didn't have a good wide receiver core. Guys, there were 2 corners that were a corner and a safety that were drafted very high on Texas. They had the number 2 passing yards allowed. They were number 2 secondary in the country. And that unit did something against that Texas secondary. Oh, I guess that this LSU secondary just can't be good because they are really good. But they play lights out as well. All right. The 3rd and 13. Let me back up on one thing. There's one thing I want to bring up too. You forcing them to be 3 of 13 on 3rd down. Guys, under Brian Kelly, we have never been this efficient on 3rd down, by the way. There hasn't been a game against a ranked opponent that we have been below 45% on defensive 3rd down percentage. You forced them to 3 to 13. They went 2 for 3 on 4th down, or 2 for 4 on 4th down. The only 2 got on one drive that got them 7. You were really good at getting off the field. Really good. That keeps happening, and you keep giving this offense chances, it's going to really win. So we talked about the game plan and some of the things defensively that you did. Guys, let's move over to the offensive side of the football. The best thing that LSU did on Saturday against Clemson offensively is very easy for me. You held on to the football for damn near 40 minutes. Guys, you had the ball damn near the entire second half. When your defense is able to give you 3 and outs the way, and 4 stops and punts, the way that LSU's defense did, it's going to give you a lot of chances. LSU had a time of possession for 37 minutes and 10 seconds. The last time that you had a time of possession this lopsided in LSU's favor was when you played Florida and could not win. But how many opportunities did you have? And it's funny looking at the Florida game a year ago and reverting and turning this one on its head and saying, you made the plays when you needed to this time. Now, for me, I know a lot of you are going to say, well, Blake, offensively, I don't think we did great. For me, you do not have to do this. If you disagree with me, this is fine. In my mental clock and in my head, I am taking LSU as winning 24-10. The Barion Brown overturn should not have happened. In saying that, I don't think that you played great offensively. I don't think that there was a lot of elite things that you did. However, there was some elite decision-making that I thought that you had from Garrett, which we'll get to from a minute. I thought you were really creative, especially in the run game. You were able to run the football at a more effective rate than I thought that you would be able to, and your offensive line blocked at a much better rate than I thought that it would. You ran for only 108 yards, a lot better against some of the ranked opponents than you did a season ago. Can you build off of that is something that we'll talk about in just a moment. But you had 29 carries for 108 yards. But, man, the thing that set this thing up, and I think that LSU's got to do more of, you even have Garrett Nussmeier on a zone read going for 11 and making the right decisions. How many times on this show have we brought up that in the running game, Garrett has got to pull one of these? And they'll finally respect it. They'll finally respect it. How many times in this game did Xavion, did Caden Durham, were they able to find lanes where they were able to cut the football back and get up the field north and south? Guys, you watched the game. A lot of you remember. Hey, Blake's right here. There were a lot of plays that this running back room were able to push it and then find a seam and cut it right back up the middle. How many times did Caden Durham do that? How many times did he do it? And some of the creative things that Joe Sloan did in the run game, like moving Kyle Parker and sealing an edge and Caden Durham busting one outside. There were a lot of run lanes that were open on the backside. All of that gets generated off of Garrett pulling the zone read and going for 11 one time. Just once. Just once. You know, it's like the first time when you get married and you finally take out the trash without your wife asking. Now she sees that you have the ability to do it. Go watch the 22, meaning the film or the copy, whatever you want to call it. Go watch how many times both of those edge players, when you are doing a read action, are going to stay home because Garrett just popped an 11-yard run on us. Got a lot of push in some of those too. If Garrett continues to do that effectively, well, something can happen here. Listen, outside of the sack, which was a 10-yard sack, I guess technically you could say you ran the ball 28 times for 118 yards if you want to be super technical and take the sack out of it. I don't think you were great. I think you were good enough. And guys, quite honestly, as you open this thing up a little bit more, I think that you will. I think that this week and we'll talk about this, I think you're going to see a lot different game plan and attack for Joe Sloan. They played conservative in a lot of ways because they knew that they could and not risk anything and win the football game because of how good they were defensively. But the levels of concern for me offensively are still there to some extent. Need to see your offensive line continue to improve and get better. Need to see you be more aggressive. I know that I felt like that there was a situation in this game where LSU just said, listen, we're up by 7. Let's not take any risks, and we can win this game from our defense. And I understand that, and I don't think it's a bad game plan because when you are really good defensively, you can do that. You did take some vertical shots early in the game. You did try to be aggressive. There were a couple of times where Trey'Dez Green got pass interfered with, And there was obviously the Barrion Brown situation where they reversed the call. Let's just say hypothetically on a couple of those plays that Tre'Davious Green doesn't get the pass interference and comes down with the catch. If that happens, the Barrion Brown fade route stays up. I don't know if we're sitting here and saying that, man, they weren't as explosive, but they played it really conservative. Guys, they ran 4 straight plays out of a diamond formation with Jawan Johnson and threw him a screen. 3 of them consecutively. 3 of them consecutively. They just said, listen, we're going to put numbers out there. We got 2 really big tight ends that can block, and Bauer Sharp and Donovan Green, and we're going to throw the football out there. And there's nothing you're going to do about it. Guys, and they didn't. They didn't. I thought you did some very unique things. You put a lot of guys in motion. You ran a lot of screens. I thought it was very creative, but there is something missing here. You're going to have to start attacking the middle of the field more, and you're going to have to get the ball vertically. The problem that I have here in watching the game versus Clemson, I still think that they're a really good team. I still think that they got a lot of really good pieces defensively, but I just don't think that you were aggressive enough. What does it look like when you take when you take some of the restrictions off, like this week, and you really open it up? You're going to have to find some receivers that will step up besides Aaron Anderson and Barrion Brown, because if they don't, like, I don't think Chris had a good game at all. And you did not remotely go in the general direction of Nick Anderson. I felt like Nick Anderson was a little bit more of a decoy at times than anything. You're going to have to throw him the football too. But getting a big body receiver like Anderson, throw him a couple of hitch routes and see what happens. If they're going to play that far off of you, you're going to have to attack the ball down the field. In reference to the just overall game, I guess that's I actually talked about one of the things that we should correct. Maybe I should have just saved it for that. I will just say this. I thought you played really good offensively. I thought you ran the ball effectively. There were a lot of creativity things used in the run game. I think it comes down to one thing for me for this offense. I thought Garrett played very mature. I thought he did everything inside the offense. He didn't get overwhelmed. He knew that he had a good team or good players on the other side of the ball, and he just did what he needed to do. I thought there were a lot of times they got you a lot of protections, and I think the biggest thing that he did was telling Tre'Davious Green and Caden Durham to go and check and get a check in Pascal on TJ Parker when DJ Chester came in at left tackle. The crazy thing is he hit check downs for first downs. On 3rd and 10, he hit Barrion Brown, and Barrion made a play, just doing everything that he needed to do. If and when this offense, quote unquote, opens up, things can take off. I will just remind everybody of this. I don't think that Clemson had the same level of defense as the 2023 Florida State. But, guys, Jaden Daniels and them only scored 24 on that team. And that might have been one of the better offenses that we've ever seen. I still characterize you as scoring 24. Personally. Like, to me, the score is 24-10. Legitimately. Like, maybe we look at it. Well, Blake, the real score is 17-10. They called it back. Sounds good. I look at something like that when it's that bogus of a call. Nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. It was one of the worst blown calls we've ever seen. They played it conservative because they knew they were good on defense. I thought, for what it's worth, Brian Kelly kind of told Joe Sloan to pump the brakes a little, be a little bit more conservative on this. So we'll see. We'll see. All in all, I thought Gary just led you to the direction and thing that you needed to be. Let's not do too much, and we're going to beat this team because we're good enough, and we will progress this thing offensively, and you did. Guys, it's still a really good team on the other side of the football that other side of the ball that you played. I mean, the Texas team that they took to the wire last year is the team that almost clipped Ohio State too. I mean, like I still think that they're a really good team. And I think offensively you'll be better, and we'll find that out this week. All right, let me get to a quick break. We got some super chats that flew in here. We'll get to those out of the break, and we'll talk about some things that we need to build on, some things that we need to correct, and we'll talk a little bit about week 1 before we get out of here. Let me get to that break, and when we come back, we'll do all that. Stay with us. Hey, Southwest Louisiana, are you ready to gear up for your next outdoor adventure or tackle that next big job on the farm? Then head on over to Henderson Tractors, Boats, and Power Sports. At Henderson and Lake Charles, they've got everything you need under one massive 30,000 square foot indoor showroom. Kubota tractors and mowers to power through the toughest tasks. Polaris off-road bikes and side-by-sides to conquer any trail. And tracker boats with brands like Ranger, Nitro, Sun Tracker, and Regency pontoons for a day out on the water. Whether you're a farmer or a hunter or just someone who loves the great outdoors, Henderson has what you need to get the job done and have fun while doing it. Browse their new and used inventory over at their website, hendersonimplement.com. That's hendersonimplement.com. Or give them a call today at 337-436-4366. That's 337-436-4366. Or go see them over in Lake Charles on the corner of East McNee Street and Highway 14. Remember, if you need a tractor, go to Henderson. Need a boat, go to Henderson. Or if you need an ATV or side-by-side, you know where to go. Henderson. Just let them know that your good friend Blake Ruffino over at AYS sent you on by. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by. We're back! Gorilla Killer on YouTube says Blake, LSU still has 6 games that are losable games, all of which will probably be one-score spread. So going to be tough, but it's our time. Yeah, look, man, we're not even remotely in the stratosphere of being close. You are not anywhere close to where I think you can be as a team. I mean, like, guys, how much are you going to look and develop in week 2 offensively? Like, you didn't go out there and play a powder puff week 1 like a lot of these other teams did, right? Like you did. So, I mean, what if we play Clemson this week versus playing a powder puff? I mean, like, what does Clemson look like against Troy? Like, what if Clemson goes out against Troy and puts up 50, 60? Then what? In reference to the schedule, look, man, you got a primetime game day is probably going to be here for LSU, Florida, I would assume. And maybe I'm wrong. I would assume. Maybe Tennessee, Georgia, maybe, I guess. I think they play in week 3. Maybe. I don't know about that. Let's just say hypothetically, they're here at night in Louisiana in September. Shit. It's a good team. Can you tackle the North Sellers? I don't know what Alabama and Oklahoma are, but I feel confident you can win all of them. Nasper on YouTube with a $5 super chat says, funny how we kind of started a trend playing competitive week 1 games in 2009. Indy was laughed at when we lost. It's not so funny when you don't have to play nobody in week 1. That is true. Notre Dame did lose. We'll talk about them in just a moment after we get some things to correct and things to build on. It's Andrew on YouTube says, rewatching the game, and while the stat sheet won't show it, Bernard Gooden was so fast at getting into the backfield. No doubt Klubnik was stressing. No doubt. See, we talked about Bernard Gooden. It was my question to Blake Baker. Hey, man, 88. Yeah, dog, quick. He wreaked a lot of havoc on K. Klubnik. He made his life hell. Very much hell. Guys, 88 is a problem. Again, didn't make the plays like that, but he is a problem. He's going to give a lot of teams problems. He's been so freaking good, man. Can't wait for him. And then here's the thing, too. Don McKinley holding the point. Don McKinley, guys, was a little bit unmovable. He played that well. All right, one more before we get moving here. Donovan says Sloan was in his bag. Nuss mentally shined, and that defense was nasty. I had us losing this one. And Bama, well, now let's go. I thought Joe had a really good called game. Not as aggressive as I would like. Like, let's throw Barry on a fade sooner. You know what I mean? Let's throw Chris Hilton a fade. I get throwing – here's what I get. I get throwing Trey'Dez Green a couple of fades. I get it. Can we get the speed in there? Like, you're throwing – guys, Chris Hilton, poor Chris Hilton. You got to throw Chris Hilton the football on a fade. He's not a side-to-side guy. We know that. If he's the fastest dude in America, throw him a vertical route and say, let them beat him in a race. Like, there are some things we got to take back here. Speaking of that. So there are some things we need to build on and some things that we need to correct. Listen, I will run through this very fast. Some things that I think you need to correct. Guys, you got to be a little bit more vertical. You can't keep going side to side in this league. There's going to be a point in time where you're going to, like, a team's going to have your number. You got to get more north and south. You got to find ways to be more explosive. I think you need to get Barry on and Chris more vertical routes sooner. You're going to have to find a way to get physical, which you did. You're going to have to find a way to get vertical too. And that was something that was missing out of your game. And I think of 2023, like, guys, you didn't really get vertical like that, and you weren't as great being vertical like that until about week 3. When in week 3, week 4, when you faced off against Mississippi State? I mean, I'm not taking Grambling into account. I mean, they were cheeks. But it was week 3 where Jaden started throwing the ball to Malik Neighbors, like, holy Malik Neighbors, what is up? Yeah. Got to get more vertical. I think a lot of people's questions and thoughts are going to be eased this week. I will be real with you. I think Joe Sloan's going to correct that. I think you will be a lot more vertical, and I think that he really wants to take it to Louisiana Tech. He's never going to say it. They're never going to admit it. I think Garrett's going to go out there and throw the ball all over the place. Really, I do. Because I think, Joe Sloan was then that staff when he was on it was fired by Louisiana Tech. He's going to want to go take it to him, and I hope that he does. I really hope that he does. A couple of things that you need to be correct. I think you need to get Barryon Brown more touches. Guys, he is explosive. And one of the biggest plays of the game was the out route that he caught, that he cut back inside and got a first down that went and got you some points. He's really good. I thought you did a great job of getting Aaron Anderson involved, and you got to get him some more touches and looks. Got to be a little bit more aggressive. But I thought you had some real explosiveness at wide receiver that I want to see more of, and I think that they'll do. I think you need to clean up the run game. I think you need to solidify what you're doing at left guard. I'm not going to point any player out, but I thought in some instances and the rotation, that room just physically did not live up to the standard that they need to live up to. The standard is you had both of those young men that were highly recruited, and I thought one of them played pretty decent. I don't think it was completely abysmal. But I don't understand running behind the left side of the offensive line as much as you did when they really weren't doing great. I thought Josh Thompson did a really good job of getting vertical in the run game, which created some cutback lanes for your running backs. I think Braylon Moore was and is as advertised. Like, I think he's really good. And I thought Weston Davis, guys, I think when he gets more reps, he's going to be a really good one. But you're just going to have to continue week in, week out, developing in this running game, taking it one step at a time. Jawan Johnson, for what it's worth, guys, was really, I mean, maybe Xavion to some extent, but he's really not. Jawan Johnson was your second team back. And it's going to be interesting to see what you do with Harlem Berry. It's going to be interesting to see what you do with Caleb Jackson. I mean, Caleb Jackson, poor Caleb Jackson, he got one handoff, and he got hit in the backfield. And that wasn't on him, unfortunately. But he had a massive play on the Xavion run where he absolutely just leveled and jarred Peter Woods that gave Xavion a really long run. Got to continue to build off of it. I like what I see from the right side of that offensive line. I think Weston Davis will get better. I think he'll get more physical. The play where Nussmeier scrambled right and hit Kyle Parker on a throwback, people were saying that was horrible play by Weston Davis. Then you don't know offensive line play. He slapped the hands of the defender, kind of got beat a little initially, recovered at an elite level, and got Garrett the time that he needed and forced a really bad contained situation for Clemson. Think you need to run on the right side of this offensive line a little bit more and see what happens and go from there. But they did a really good job of getting vertical and helping you get some push. So we'll see. Clean up the turnovers. I mean, you didn't throw an interception, but going for it on fourth down, the fumbles, I mean, like, you really had 3 turnovers, really. But you can't fumble the football if you're Bauer Sharp. You can't fumble the football if you're Chris Hilton. You got to clean that up because you got to clean up a couple of things. I know BK was kind of pressing a little bit there before half. Again, felt like he knew that he had a really good team defensively where he could be aggressive. You got to get the points there, and you can't fumble the football. Bauer Sharp has got to stop having a little bit of the case of the dropsies. I mean, he had to catch one twice along the sideline, and then he fumbled the football. You just can't have turnovers and think game. You shouldn't expect to have turnovers and not think that you're going to be in close games. Got to clean that up because you've had a problem in turnovers. This time it wasn't Garrett. You got to clean that up. Hold on to the damn football. All right. To say the things to build on. Continue to play physical along your front seven. I think that is the biggest thing that you do. We kind of basically talked about one of them. I don't think you were bad in the run game. You need to build on it. But, man, if there's something to hang your hat on that, man, can teams just not run the football against LSU? Are they just that freaking physical that teams are just not going to run the football? And if that's the case, then great. Continue to build on that and continue to limit teams to being one-dimensional. If you keep making teams one-dimensional, this secondary is good enough to be really freaking good, make a lot of really good plays. Guys, one thing that's interesting, build on the maturity of Garrett Nussmeier. I have waited this long to talk about Garrett at a bigger level because I wanted it to be its own segment. That's the last thing that we're talking about tonight. I thought Garrett Nussmeier was freaking fantastic. I think that there was a lot made of him from myself in reference to, hey, he's got to clean the turnovers. He's got to be more mature. He's got to step up in that pocket and take some hits. And he did. He's got to pull the ball and run it. He's got to get into right run plays. He's got to call right protections. He did. That was the most mature Garrett Nussmeier that we've seen. It's the most mature Garrett Nussmeier we've seen. And as the season goes on, he's going to be more in rhythm. You got to build on that he can be that good. It seems like he took some shit personal. And he's got to build off of that. I think that you're finally seeing him be in a situation where he knows what's coming. Like, hey, man, all right, here comes the blitz here. We're going to slide this, and I got an out route right here or a stick route. So I'm just going to call it. We're going to make a throw, and we're going to get to the races. We're off to the races. I know where the protection's coming from. So listen, pressure coming from the left. Guys, 9 times out of 10 last year, pressure coming from the left, Garrett Nussmeier would spin a Rooney like his name was Booker T in the early 2000s, and he would try to get outside to the left. Hey, man, here comes T.J. Parker. Sounds good. I'm going to roll right. Oh, wait. I knew I had Kyle Parker on the in route. Boom. I knew Barryon was hitting the stick route. Well, you know what? I'm going to run out, kind of throw it back a little. Barryon's going to cut it back inside. We got a first down. B-oop. Oh, I'm under pressure for the first time tonight. You know what? Hey, Caden Durham, check down. B-oop. He played flawlessly, man. He played flawlessly. And when you have a quarterback who has the ability that he does, that's taking the game in stride and knowing how to win games. Guys, that's how you win football games, man. You don't always have to be Joe Burrow, right? Like, you don't have to be Joe. You don't have to be Jaden. You can be Garrett Nussmeier, and I'm going to tell you, based off of what Garrett did, teams are going to scheme him up differently. They're going to scheme him up differently. He's got to go up against a really good defensive line in a couple weeks in Florida. Guys, they sacked him 7 times. He knows. He knows. But I still think that as the season goes on, you're going to continue to see a more mature Garrett Nussmeier, and he's going to make a lot of really good plays for you. And that's something to build on. All right. Before we get out of here, listen, I am, as you all know this, I am not unaware of what happened in week 1. I think there are a couple of things about week 1, especially around the SEC, that we need to hold up on. Number 1, when we talk about the SEC, I know Texas and Alabama lost, and a lot of people are clowning it. In Alabama's case, they should. Florida State physically dominated them. But week 1 was so interesting in the sense of it kind of gave LSU fans some hope. Like, hey, man, all right, maybe we will beat Bama. I mean, is Texas not that good? Because, I mean, is it Georgia? I mean, like, we going to be in the SEC title game? We going to a playoff here? It's crazy what 1 week will do. Hope is a crazy thing. And as an LSU guy, there should be a lot of hope based off of what you showed. College football is weird, man. That Alabama team lost to Vanderbilt last year. Notre Dame played for a national title and lost to Northern Illinois. Shit can be very crazy and very hectic. It's college football in the 21st century. I think Bama's in trouble to some extent. They got smashed. They got them cheeks clapped. Texas is an experienced quarterback away of gaining that experience. I think Arch is going to be fine. As of my take, Arch is going to be fine. A lot of you wanted to say he was ass. He's not ass. He's not ass. He's going to be fine. But the real truth is, the experienced quarterbacks won week 1. That is the takeaway of week 1. Look at the experienced quarterbacks outside of Cade Klubnik, who went up against an experienced quarterback in his own right. Look at all the young quarterbacks. Who did they lose to? Julian Sain being the only one that got a win of significance, but he faced off against a first-time starter. These experienced quarterbacks won. Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, Marcel Reed. Yes, I get it, Blake. They played UTSA. That Henry kid from UTSA ran all over A&M. Florida, Stockton, if you want to give it to them. These more experienced quarterbacks, Carson Beck, they went out in week 1, which is what you should expect. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a blessed night. And we'll see y'all soon. I'm sure Carter Bryant will join us tomorrow as well. Have a good night. Peace.